Good morning, Set to Love people. So happy to be here with you this morning. How are you at trying something new? Is that easy for you? Today, we're going to be talking about tips to cultivating courage. You can live a life in flow where your deepest heart's desires become reality.
You are here to contribute through your essence, fall deeper in love with your life and the journey that you are on.
Take what works, ditch the rest, and always stay set to love.
Thank you for being a part of this community. We're all designed to live in flow. So let's go.
Good morning, friend.
Good morning, best friend. How are you?
Doing good. Really, really good. I got a good night's sleep.
Me too. I feel like I slept so well last night. And then I woke up this morning, and this was one of those mornings that when you wake up and you go back to sleep, you go right into dreaming. And it's like you feel like you had like a whole nother night's rest. That's what I felt like last night. So it was good. Nice little restful.
You know what is so funny? I knew we were going to be talking about cultivating courage. And it was so funny though. I woke up at like 1:30 in the morning and something popped in my head about cultivating courage. And I've got my phone out and I went into my notes and wrote just the idea that was in my head because I knew it's almost like I thought I was in a dream, but I knew that if I didn't write it down, I would forget it. Have you ever done that?
Yes, I do that. No, I have a little notepad that's right by my bed. And so I'll definitely write things down as they come to me, or I text myself. Most of the time I text myself. So I'll just, instead of sending it to anyone else, I just send it to myself. And so I have so many messages that if I went back and through, they're just like little ideas or random things that like come to me that I think, oh, I don't want to forget this. Oh, I don't want to forget this. So I love that you do that. So I want to know what you wrote down because it was probably inspired and someone out there
one
needs
of the
to hear it.
things, what really came to mind is, when it comes to cultivating courage, it's that, I think we think too much. You know what I'm saying? We just think so, we overthink things. And by the time we spend all that time worrying about what may not even take place, we've wasted all of this time. And then you look back and you go, gosh, that was so much easier or so much fun. Why did I, waste all this energy on, worrying about something that hasn't even happened? So what do you think? Do you find that's true?
I think that plays into the whole fear aspect and why like courage is so important, because I do think that it's so simple for us to just get locked into fear, and that really everything tips at courage. All my research, everything that I have done, and we talk about being courageous. It's one of our themes on this show. And I think it's really one of the themes to having flow in your life is we get so comfortable living the life that we're living, whether it's bad. Like, I mean, there could be so much chaos happening. Your relationships could be falling apart or have fallen apart years ago. And it's safer for you to stay there because you know it, and so it's hard, I think, for people to step sometimes outside. I mean, not just other people, me too. It's hard to step into something that is different, or we don't know what's on the other side of that. And it does take courage. But when you are courageous and you do move towards what you want, whether that's in having a conversation or going on an adventure, doing something courageous, like, I don't know, hiking the Grand Canyon or skydiving or just eating at a new restaurant or doing just, I don't know, getting in your car and just going for a drive. I mean, sometimes doing things that are just outside of our comfort zone take courage. But when we can do this over and over, then our entire life, it's like the scale. And when you sit on the courageous side of things, you just tip into flow. It just happens. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
I also think that you need to just do it. It's like if you're going to skydive, right? To stand up there where you're going to jump off and think about, you need to either just jump or don't climb up the ladder till you're ready to jump.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be so much harder on you. I just feel like having a childlike attitude to things in the sense that, kids are just, they meet a friend, they are very engaging. They're just,
Mhm.
when you think of just going back to a childlike attitude and not putting all these stresses that we put on ourselves,
Mhm.
I think, and then taking just a step towards what you want. I mean, because maybe it's not bungee jumping, maybe it's a job, or maybe it's
Yeah.
taking a position that you have to be over people and,
Mhm.
being the leader. We talked about that,
Yep. Yep.
we will talk about that. And anyway, I just think that having a childlike attitude and taking one step, because once you take one step,
Mhm.
then the next step and the next step are that much easier.
Yeah, and really sometimes when you take that first step, there's no turning back. Or at least there is, but you've already done it. So here's a great example, and this is kind of a dumb example, but I just said it was great, but then I just said it was dumb. I don't know. You all decide whether it's great or dumb. But I remember we went to Yosemite. This was years ago with Chad's family. And there's this giant, giant waterfall that you can like hike up to. And at the very, very top, there's a bit, the water accumulates into this giant crystal pool. And then it goes down a ways and drops off into this waterfall. So there's people who were kind of at the higher end of this pool jumping in the water and then swimming across to this big, huge slab of rocks and laying out there. Well, the water is coming, it's melted snow. It's freezing. It is so cold. And there's a little ledge. And so jumping in, there's no like dipping your toe in. You just kind of have to take that little leap and just dive in or jump in. And no one really wanted to do it. And I just said, I'm going to do it. And then once I said it out loud, everyone's like, Eva, you're going to do it? I said, oh my gosh, did I just say I'm going to do it? And then I thought, okay, I'm just going to do it. So I jumped in. And right when my body hit that water, I popped out, and it was so cold that everything around me just like, I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was just like just trying to slow down and catch my breath. And they're like, do you want to come back? Do you want to come back? We'll help you up. I'm like, at first, I wanted to say yes. At first, jumping into that cold water, it was shocking. I was not ready for it. It was hard to breathe. But I realized I'm already here. So I might as well just swim, just go. And that's what I did. I said, no, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I just swam across to the other side, got to that rock, laid out by it. I was so proud of myself because not any, like, there was only like one other person who would do it in our group. And then I had to go back the other way. But then I knew what to expect. Like, I had already felt that water. I knew how cold it was going to be. It still was cold getting back in, but it wasn't such a shock to the system. And then I was able to swim back. So I think about that for life. Sometimes it just takes the action of announcing it, being courageous to say, I'm going to do this to someone so you can be held accountable. And then taking that leap, taking that jump. And it might feel so cold and you're like, what am I doing? And be constrictive. But once you commit to the process and just start swimming, beautiful things can happen in your life.
Well, I absolutely agree. And what story comes to my mind is having to speak in front of 500 women on a
Mm.
Women's Day. And I remember feeling at the time, I knew I had to do it because I had already committed to it. But then just before going out there and seeing that room filled with people, thinking, what, your insecurities, what do I have to say that's going to make any difference, to all of
Mhm.
these people? Or what if I flub up on my words or whatever? And I remember just stopping for a second and just saying, okay, God, just be with me, hold me up because I feel like I have no legs. And then the next thing I know, I had to go out there and I had to start talking. And all I can say is when you push yourself to do something that does take courage, the
Mhm.
lesson that you learn about yourself and then how many people that it does affect that you don't think it's going to, just down to the simplest of things, there
Mhm.
were, I mean, I talked about having dyslexia, and all these people came and talked to me about what that felt like, or that, whatever it was. I mean, I talked about a lot of things, and you just don't realize who else is
Mhm.
sitting there and saying, wow, I'm not alone in this. kind of
Right.
makes me feel like what we're doing here on this show takes courage. I'm not a person who likes to be on camera, but I do it anyway because for the overall goodness of what we're trying to accomplish to help people every day
Mhm.
is worth it for you to think, my crazy thoughts in my head, what you might be thinking. It has to just be overrid by doing a
But
courageous
hasn't it
thing. That's
also, Shelley, hasn't it gotten easier? Wouldn't you say that from the first episode to this
oh,
130, whatever the heck we're at, so much easier,
well, and
right?
I think it makes you a stronger person. I think it teaches
Mhm.
many lessons that some of the things that I told myself were just absolutely ridiculous. Like
Mhm.
it just doesn't matter. And that's one thing that you're really good at helping me, that just show up as you are. It's good enough. And
Yes.
I wore that t-shirt. We bought those t-shirts. I'm enough.
Yeah.
And I thought of you all day long because wearing
Aw.
that t-shirt saying, no matter how you are, no matter what you look like, whatever your weight is, whatever your age is, whatever, religion you believe, it just doesn't matter. You're enough just as you
Mhm.
are. And so,
I
but that
love that.
takes courage to just accept and just love yourself enough to say, I want to do create courageous things so that I can experience many experiences. We limit ourselves by not having
Mhm.
courage. And why not have
You know
a
what?
full life?
It reminds me, so my sister, she just got back into committing to her art. She's a ridiculously creative person, whether it's in writing or painting or drawing or refinishing furniture. I mean, she just exudes creativity. So she drew 3 different pictures and she's submitting them to an art show or an art gallery. And she just finished the last one last week. So there's a set of 3 prints, and it took so much courage for her to submit them because she had to commit to them being sold, right? So like she put all this time and energy into something and now it could go to someone else. But it's also, she had to be so vulnerable. And I think that's part of way cultivating courage is to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. So I mean, it's like when you look at these pictures, I know her, and so I can see little details of things she's put into it that are so personal to her, that could be hanging in someone else's home, that for some reason resonate with them and become personal to them. But it took a lot of courage for her to step back into her craft and be vulnerable and put her all. She would be up until 4 a.m. sometimes working on these pieces because she was in such flow doing it, and she just couldn't pull herself away. I mean, it was like serious flow state. She was just drawing, painting, doing her
That's
thing,
beautiful.
isn't it? And now here she is. She's like, I'm so proud of myself that I completed a project that she said, just like with the book, right? Like, just like you can talk about it, but it takes courage to follow through. So
I know, but
sometimes
the
it's just doing
benefits,
it.
like if you think about the benefits and the people that you've met and the people that have wanted to meet you because of your book, and the same thing about your sister with her art
Mhm.
is going to be sitting in 3 people's homes for however long, and they're going to love what she did. I mean,
Yep.
the lesson and how she's going to feel, she doesn't even know yet, but when it happens, the blessings of how your life is enriched by the courage that you have changes lives. It's
It
not just
really
even
does.
about you. It's
It's
about
not
so
about
much,
you.
right?
I
It's so
mean,
much
it is
bigger.
because you get the benefit of being courageous and overcoming something, and that cultivates confidence. So when you can be courageous with your life and the things that you're doing, that builds confidence because you have those small successes. Like, regardless of whether they sell or not, regardless of what people think about them or not, she did it, right? She committed to a process. She was courageous throughout it. She was vulnerable throughout it. And now she's done. She's putting it out there, and whatever happens, happens. And so I think we could all do that a little bit more in our lives. Find something that you really want to there's a need in the world that you can fill. And when you can be courageous in doing it, even if it's just that small step, that small commitment, just jumping in, being childlike and saying, okay, why not? Like, let's just
Exactly.
taking that
Just do
baby
it. Say
step.
yes.
Yes, just saying yes. Like, it's so
Just
beautiful
saying yes. And you
what
just
can
don't
happen.
know what wonderful things that's what I'm saying. Just don't think too much about it. Just go for it and enjoy the process of whatever's going to happen from it. And you know what? The truth is, sometimes, I mean, in real reality, some things aren't going to turn out the way that you thought.
Mhm.
And when that's the case, it doesn't mean that it still wasn't for the good. You will learn something about yourself. You will pick the pieces up and you'll go on. Attitude is everything.
It's
We
so
don't
true.
think that everything is always going to turn out perfect, but it happens the way it's supposed to teach you something. Don't you agree?
Totally agree with you. And that's just this is the journey that is life. And it's so beautiful to be a part of it and to learn to cultivate courage in ourselves, because it does get easier and you're more willing to take bigger risks. And with bigger risks come bigger rewards. And if you're not afraid to fail, or even if you are afraid to fail, but you do it anyway,
Yes.
it makes life so much more meaningful, and it just feels so much more fully, wholeheartedly lived when we're courageous. So I just want to encourage everyone out there to do something courageous this week. It can be a small baby thing or something massive that's been on your heart that I should be doing this. I can be doing this. Why am I not doing this? My life could be so much better, so much different. I could help someone. So just see what happens if you take that chance.
Let us know how you're feeling too. Please write us. We are at settolove.com. You can write us on settolovepodcast@gmail.com. You guys, we love you so much. We really appreciate your support. Thank you for being with us this morning. I love you, friend. And
love you, best
everybody
friend. Love you all for being part of our family, our Set to Love family. We love you. Thanks for tuning in and watching. And if you think this can help someone, share it with them. And if you need our help, just reach out to us. We love you and have a great day.
hit the bell.